You're watching Daybreak on Citizen Television. Thank you for staying with us here on the broadcast. And as the festive mood kicks in, we take stock of the responsibility that falls upon the stakeholders on our roads. And data from the National Police Service and the National Transport and Safety Authority isn't pleasing either. We therefore are taking the account of stakeholders in the sector. David Carrier is the chairperson of the Road Safety Association of Kenya. Good morning, David. Thank you for your time and company here on the broadcast. Kennedy Onyango is the Secretary General, the Border Safety Association of Kenya, and cooperating with state and non-state actors in the reduction of accidents involving border operators in the country. Thanks for your time, Ken.
Thank you.
And shortly we'll be joined by Patricia Mudeo, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Matatu Owners Association in the country. And we welcome your contributions here as well on the broadcast. The hashtag on Twitter is Daybreak, at Citizen TV Kenya, at Ayub Abrikadir, and at Safin_Achieng. David, may I begin with you? And we'll be taking a look at the statistics from the National Police Service and the National Transport and Safety Authority, NTSA. There has been an increase between January and September of road accidents involving motorcyclists, drivers, and majorly the consequence here is on the passengers who either lose their lives or end up with severe injuries, therefore going under medication. What can be done to reduce this, not only with a focus on this festive period, but beyond the Christmas 2022 and the New Year 2023?
Thank you, Abdi. The only thing we need in this country is enforcement. We have enough policies, we have enough laws, but enforcement, we lack what we call enforcement. This is why you see the increase of these road accidents, because even our attitude, we must change our culture towards road safety. Any place you go, you must respect the rule of law. But normally, we Kenyans, we don't respect the laws, the traffic rules. This is why you find somebody can drive while he's drunk. This is why you see somebody does not even want to know what the meaning of these signs. Many drivers we have, they even don't know the meaning of the zebra crossing. So we need to have proper civic education, which should start from even primary. This is something which should be taken now at a higher level, because we are losing so many people, and it is a trend whereby we always say that this year we have increased. Every year we are increasing instead of decreasing these accidents. Okay. So something must be done seriously.
Okay, talking about policy position and the need for awareness and the responsibility that ought to be exercised by stakeholders, and we'll be talking about that at length. Yeah. Can I come to you? What then can be done immediately to arrest the sharp increase in the number of accidents?
What needs to be done, I think, if you ask me, what needs to be done if you look at most of our roads and most of our drivers, be it from the border sector or even from the other transport sector, the taxi, the matatu operators, all of them. If you look at it, in this country, the access of the vital documents for you to be on the road, it's as cheap as just walking to River Road today and you just get them. It is not like the way you will go to a country like Rwanda. I've done benchmarking one time in Rwanda, and you realize even before you get documents for you to be on the road, it's a vigorous process. It's a serious process. Today, it's very easy. The department that is dealing with the issue of issuing the vital documents for our drivers or our riders to be on the road, like NTSA, the system is so porous. So it becomes very difficult. We have so many rogue riders and drivers on our roads. And despite the fact that, Abdi, you can end up being a very good driver, you will actually find yourself being hit by those very rogue as much as you'll be very careful on our roads, you find that those that are going to happen to be causing a lot of accidents on our roads are those that are rogue. And there's something Kerry has just mentioned. We need to be very consistent on how we are doing things. Most of the time, you look at government officials, the way sometimes they address the issue of even this road carnage, it's kind of a knee-jerk reaction. When something happens, that's the time you'll see it's like a game of chess,
okay,
or changing of chairs from here and there. We need to be consistent from January all the way to December. Why is it that we'll hear a lot of pronouncement right now, either from the office of either the ministry in charge of transport,
okay,
or even the enforcement? Why at this time are you going to see them issuing very stern action, yet it's something that needs to be consistent all the way, so that even our drivers know that action will be taken on this way, on the other way. Remember, there's a time NTSA used to ban even SACCOs. If you happen to have this SACCO has caused an accident on the road, the entire department of that SACCO is getting banned so that they don't operate. So most of the time you'll be very careful when you are on the road, so that you don't suffer the consequence of being banned. Okay. And that is something that needs to be done. There are so many things that actually happen to cause a lot of road accidents on our road.
Okay, we'll come to the causes.
Those we are going to address in this show. But we need to start from that point of allowing anyone to be on the road, riding or driving. Okay,
when you mention that, then clearly it paints a picture of the cost of corruption and the corroding effect, the consequences it does bear on institutions like you have mentioned, the National Transport and Safety Authority. I mean, what then can be done as a serious stakeholder, as a key stakeholder? Did you reach out, establish a communication line with NTSA to not just dish out these licenses to the operators that you do represent?
Yeah. That is something that we've been trying to work in coordination with the National Transport and Safety Authority. Because there is a regulation, like for instance on the motorcycle, that was passed in 2015 on regulation of parallelization of a motorcycle in the country. And you realize that NTSA plays a very, very important role in making sure that either you will be registered completely from the system or you are allowed to be on the road. It is the NTSA that issues these licenses. But now we need to have a complete coordination. He is a stakeholder in the transport sector. I'm a transport stakeholder also, and we have so many. Let's have a continuous working relationship so that we can, because there's a time we actually did a very overall check in the border sector, and we found that almost 60% of our drivers who actually happen to ride on our roads did not have license, and those that had the license were actually very fake. They were not even in the system, and they were operating. These people happen to mingle with the police on the road every single day. When they are arrested, who does the police check?
Okay, well, that is the point with which, again, clearly we come to talk about how corruption is having effect on the running or the administration of the country. Kiarie, I mean, when 22% of the 15,924 cases so far recorded between January and September this year have died, that's a number that ought to be shocking, isn't it?
It is very shocking. And even the numbers are not correct. My friend, we have lost, until this time, we have lost more than 5,000 Kenyans on our roads. And as we are talking about licenses, because that is the genesis of road safety. If we need our roads to be safe, we must make sure that we have competent drivers, because vehicles must be driven. They are machines. Those people who are driving them we must make sure that they are properly trained. And this is where we are saying, and we are working together with the Matatu Owners Association. We are asking the government today, why can't we remove licenses from NTSA? We don't want to hear licenses coming from NTSA. How? NTSA, what do they check in these licenses? If you get your license today and you just go and put that license in your box for 5 years, when you come out with it, then they term you qualified. Now we are saying, why can't we give this business of training these people who are carrying passengers to the National Youth Service. And then they issue the licenses. We've been discussing about borders being trained by National Youth Service, but it has been a political way, just people to get votes. Because these things have been discussed many times. We had a task force formed by Matiang'i. What happened? Money, people who paid their taxes, the money was used and nothing happened. The report is somewhere on the table. Somebody has put that report there. What are we doing? We have done a lot. A lot of money has been spent so that we have proper roads, but nothing is happening. It is political. So today, if we can say all the borders riders must go through National Youth Service, I'm telling you, for discipline, because road safety, discipline is a must, to make sure that these people are properly trained. One, understand, why did borders come in this country? We have a problem of employment. Most of our youths today are getting their money through the border. So it is something which is very important in this country. So all what the government needs to do is to make sure that these guys are properly trained. We are talking of 4 million borders in this country, and talking of 80% of them not having a driving license is a risk. That's why we are losing 20 every day.
Okay, and that number is 1,269 from NTSA database. But here's the very worrying and the striking, rather the need for the change. But what we have at the moment is continuity in terms of the number that continues to come up. There were over 900 motorcyclists. I'll come to the very specifics as to also the others who are involved. And Ken, then when you have such a number increasing, and then, I mean, Onyango, then Ken talks about the need for proper training, for example, that put under the National Youth Service. How does that change the entire perception about the border sector and the increasing cases of motorcycle incidents?
You see, Abdi, I'll be very candid to you and just tell you what has happened with even the previous administrators. Like, for instance, we had the minister that was actually put in charge of running all the, he was actually the super minister. We used to call him Fred Matiang'i. And there's a time he was actually cutting across all the ministries. He went to NTSA and tried to do the total overhaul of how NTSA used to do things. You used to happen to hear on our roads duplicate number plates. You just see, you're actually driving, and the car in front of you is the same number plate with yours, and you are like, boss, that's also my car. It used to happen, and all of them were actually coming from NTSA. What we are saying, that time he made a pronouncement that all border riders are going to be retrained by National Youth Service. And they say the government has pumped over 5,000 shillings per rider. That after that training, refresher course or whatever they used to call them, every single rider will be issued a license, this digital driving license. So, but let me tell you, at that point, it was just a pronouncement.
And was that a proposal you put to then Interior CS, Dr. Fred Matiang'i?
We used to complain and used to tell that ministry that we want our riders to be trained. Remember, NTSA stands for National Transport and Safety Authority. Now, I have always tried to zero down on this issue of safety. NTSA, every single year, Abdi, they'll keep on coming with figures on our television and tell us, this year we have lost 800 riders. Next year, there's an increase from 800 to 900. But they're not telling us what they are doing to arrest that road carnage, the fatal deaths that we continuously experience on our roads. And they are getting a budget for it. What we are saying, we need to see that training. Because, Abdi, I'll tell you, most of our hospitals today, the amount of billions of money that are being used to take care of those people that happen to have survived from road accident is in terms of billions of money. What about if you can use a fraction of the same just to train our riders or our drivers so that we have competent people on our roads.
Thank you.
This issue of saying don't overspeed, yet they know it is within the law.
Okay.
And then the penalties that happen to that person that is arrested after just violating the very same law that is in place, because we have so much laws in this country. But the way Carrier just put it, enforcement.
Okay, thank you.
We have a problem here.
Asante. Welcome back. You're watching Daybreak on Citizen Television. Thank you for staying with us here on the broadcast. Your time is all appreciated. Later, we sample some of your feedback on Twitter and on the SMS code 22422. We are now joined by Patricia Mudeu, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Matatu Owners Association. Good morning, Patricia.
Morning.
Thanks for making time. May I begin with you? And talking about the data from the National Transport and Safety Authority, the National Police Service on the increasing cases of road carnage in the country, victims dying, the number continues to increase. What's the easy, immediate fix in your view?
Create a serious awareness, recall the drivers and train them, okay? Run some short video clips inside the matatus to sensitize, because most of these actually is caused because of rush, and also unlicensed motorists being allowed to access our roads. So we cannot barely blame it on matatus. Okay, we blame it in all road users. So it's very important for all road users to be well certified and trained. Yes, because safety starts with you.
Okay.
Yes, it's a collective responsibility. Different people use this road, from the non-motorized machineries, from bicycles to matatus to lorries to, motorcycles. Yeah. So there's a need to train well and make sure they're well certified.
Okay, as the Chief Executive Officer of the association, which is by more than 50%, almost it's more than 60% used by members of the public, how important do you consider training of your drivers within the circles that you do represent, that they are trained, they are properly licensed, and they exercise the caution that you have mentioned on the roads to lessen these numbers?
I'll tell you with no contradiction, 80% of our workforce is compliant and certified. So actually, our biggest challenge is the latter. And that's why we have to collaborate to make sure these roads are safe. Okay, and start this national dialogue on how we're gonna, take care of each other. Yes.
Well, you said 80%. What about the remaining 20%?
20%. 20% we're still struggling, and that we leave it to the enforcers, and that's why these structures are set up. Because in any area, we must have people who are reluctant in terms of adhering to the law. But I can say 80% are compliant.
Okay.
And my chairman here can confirm whether the information is true or not. Yes.
Okay. David, then let me come to you. You have talked about the proposal earlier. But why do you think they have not been implemented, despite even having a sit-down with the former cabinet secretary for the Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government and other government institutions? Why do you think they were dead against your proposals?
Let me say there's a lot of politics on our roads, and there's a lot of politics because if up to you can remember when we had this thing we call COVID, what happened in COVID? You saw the CS was coming, trying to address to the nation, telling people exactly what is happening, where the COVID is hitting most, and the people were aware. There was a lot of awareness. But ask yourself, how many people died in COVID? For 2-3 years, only 5,000. But we are losing over 6,000. You know, the figures we get of 4,000 is completely wrong. Those are figures of those people who die direct on the road. But those who don't survive in hospitals are never put on those figures. And that is where we are saying now, because our figures and NTSA always have been contradicting. But our figures and the WHO were exactly the same, meaning that we don't get the correct figures from NTSA, because sometimes they even don't want to give these figures. because they know if you say 6,000 people have lost their lives, maybe you are going to lose your job. But the fact is that we are losing a big number of people. People have been thinking that it is Matatu which caused these accidents. But today I want to tell you, we have so many private vehicles and many people are dying in these private vehicles. We are losing so many pedestrians. Like today, they are leading. From pedestrians, we are going to the boda. So you see, when we talk of road safety, we've been thinking the crackdown will be put there. Why? Because of the Matatu, because of the boda. No, all road users. And that is why we are saying, why haven't we ever seen a roadblock for the private vehicles, particularly at this time? Remember, we are going to the festive season. Okay, roadblock in terms of what do you... you see, wherever there is an accident, look, for instance, there is an accident which happened on our Eldoret-Nairobi way, whereby we have lost about 10 people already. From that accident, you'll see roadblocks everywhere. Police now hammering the PSV vehicles. And that accident was caused by a lorry. But we have never seen a crackdown whereby lorries are stopped, making sure that they are properly checked. Okay, but we normally check on matatus. Okay, David, but the reality is, before I come to Ken, the reality is that the law is applicable across board. But you are painting a picture of selective or application of the law that doesn't apply to private vehicles. It doesn't, and I want to tell you for sure, doesn't apply to the private vehicles. Okay, in what instance I need to understand? Okay, just hang on. Very many private vehicles have caused accidents. Okay. If you go to that record you have, you'll see private vehicles are now leading. In fact, many accidents have been caused by the private vehicles. Why? Nobody is concentrating about these private vehicles. Every owner of a Matatu or a PSV vehicle, make sure that he takes his vehicle for inspection once in a year. Make sure that his driver, as she's saying, 80% of their drivers are compliant. Thank you. What about the private drivers? Okay. We have many people driving on our roads and they don't have licenses. Okay, thank you. We are talking about human lives here, so the remaining 20% is equally key. Yes. From where Patricia sits, and therefore they ought to make sure that they hit the 100% mark, because it involves human lives, and what we're talking about are not just statistics or numerics, it's people who are losing their lives. Can I come to you? Many of these causes of road accidents are predictable and preventable factors, such as basic rules. For example, helmet for your border operators. How important is that messaging, and are you putting that across to your operators? You said you benchmarked in Rwanda, and you have seen how the administration in Kigali has instilled discipline among the motorcycle operators in that country. Yeah. Is that a message that you are taking home and instilling in the riders that you do represent?
One thing that we are doing, Abdi, is that in this country, it's a matter of speak again, and even speak more, but less action. In other jurisdictions, in other countries, it's not about speaking, it's about action. You can go to jail because of misbehaving on the road. Here, you can hire a judge instead of just picking a lawyer, akutete kotini, and you story ende. The only thing we are saying, issue like helmet, which you have just asked me, this is a message. We've done a lot of training for our border riders, because this issue of bad manners on our roads, and I agree with when she was just getting in here, said train your people. It's not government's responsibility. It is. The buck stops with government. We will do our part, but the bigger budget that the government keeps on giving to the Ministry of Transport and NTSA falls down there is a budget to make sure that our people get proper training. These driving schools that are charging exorbitant fees, they need to make sure that whatever that happens at the end of the day, helmets we are going to put on. But Abdi, let me ask you, the helmets that are on the market right now, that is going to protect the riders in case there is a road accident, because accident is something that happens by mistake. If you cause it knowingly, it's not an accident, it's a deliberate thing, and you need to be punished. If you put on the helmets that are in the market today, those helmets are actually contributing to the deaths of our riders.
In what sense?
They are substandard. Most of the helmets, if it drops from this table down here, it just breaks. What about if a rider was actually going at a speed of 80 km/h? going by the standard of the speed limit on our roads. They're going to die automatically. And the helmets, the sharp edges after it breaks, it contributes to the death of the same rider. The standard helmets that are in the market today, which can protect the driver or the rider for that instance, is up to 35,000 shillings. That's the standard helmet. If the government wants to reduce even those road carnage, the way we've actually done some of the training together with government, we've taken our riders for refresher courses here at Jamhuri Showground just to test their competence on how they actually operate on our roads and see whether they are competent. Mm-hmm. If we will, the government can subsidize completely, or even give for free, because I just told you the billions of money government is pumping on our hospitals just to take care of those patients that happen to have become victims of accidents on our roads. Mm-hmm. Is a lot of money. It is in terms of billions. We can actually use a fraction of that money, just a small percentage, to train our people.
Thank you.
On the importance, and even to subsidize on the helmet. But let me say this.
Okay, Jasango, let me come to, because you have mentioned a very pertinent point. I wanted to tie it to the next question that I would like Patricia to respond to. And amongst your circles, because that is the Matatu Owners Association, is coming together of many circles that operate in Nairobi County and its environs. I mean, how do you then address the issue of poor mechanical conditions of vehicles, tire bursts? Because these are also leading causes that contribute to the deaths of people on the road.
I would like to repeat again, 80%, which is a very high number of our members are compliant. Our main job as Matatu Owners Association is advocacy, and this is a business. I would like also to contribute to what Mr. Carey said. Why is it that it's Matatus are the vehicles which are stopped in case of any road carnage? Simply is because there is easy money. Okay, and the moment we revert, and also government helps us to enforce a cashless mode of operation, that will make sure everyone sticks to their job. Because we need to stop the need to eat where you've not planted. Mm-hmm. One of our biggest shortcomings in this country is corruption. And I will tell you, we become targets because our touts and our drivers or any matatu, it's a moving bank. Mm-hmm. They always have cash. But if you were to eliminate this, I think we'll compel the police to do what they're mandated to do. Same applies to motorcycle. Mm-hmm. I agree that maybe the protective gears, they need to be zero-rated, VAT zero-rated. Mm-hmm. But again, by wearing the helmet, you just help the life of one person. But how do they drive? Are they supposed to stick on the right side or the left side?
Okay.
Yeah? So I believe, and I'll keep on repeating, safety starts with you. But we are still calling on government to come on board and become extra active. Let traffic police do their job. They're not tax collectors. Okay. And this is what is ailing our country.
Okay.
You get me? They become tax collectors
all right.
at the expense of unroadworthy motor vehicles on the road. They give it a blind eye. And this is a message that should go to them. That 50 shillings or 100 shillings you're taking from these motor vehicles, it costs someone's life.
All right. You paint two pictures here.
Yes.
Scenario number one.
Yeah.
Unroadworthy vehicle.
Yeah.
And police soliciting bribe.
Yes.
Those are two wrongs.
Yeah.
And it's the police who is encouraging the continuity of that vehicle on the road, and it's the driver who's willing to pay that police officer.
Yeah.
And then at the expense of a human life.
Exactly.
Scenario number two.
Yeah.
Compliant matatu or public service vehicle, and still the police officer demanding for bribe. Exactly. The police officer in these two cases is the constant factor in the equation. The other two are variables. In the first instance, you also do encourage, do you think, in your view, of having unroadworthy vehicles on the road? Why?
That is inevitable. In every workforce, we must have aids. true or false, there is no institution that is 100%. But if you get an institution that has adhered to 80%, it needs a pat in the back. We need to change the culture, our culture as Kenyans. We need to stop normalizing corruption. And everyone in this house will bear with me. We've normalized corruption. Simamishwa, peana sotano, imeenda. And yet, you forget the bigger picture. That is our problem. And not unless we tackle that. We all become enablers. But like I said, MOA is an advocacy docket.
Yes.
We will preach until it gets into your ears. And I keep on saying, if one person, may his soul rest in peace, Michuki, managed to cause a revolution in PSV sector, it's just the goodwill.
Okay.
Persistence and goodwill.
Does that exist at the moment?
It should start. It's a culture that needs to be changed. It doesn't exist. But who is supposed to implement? It's us.
Okay. Let me go to David Carey on the second scenario, David. Compliance, 100%, but still you have the problem of the law enforcement officers.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's not a blanket condemnation because they are officials in the National Police Service, the Traffic Department, who adhere to the law, to the provisions of the Constitution. But then what happens to end the sort of the Matatu Bank syndrome that to town you have to pay, from town you have to pay, despite the compliance and the certificates you have been issued by other agencies like NTSA?
And I think she has said very well. One, she has mentioned Michuki. What made Michuki succeed? Nothing. He did nothing. He just made sure that if your vehicle is compliant, you are not bribing anybody could take your shilling. But today, even if your matatu is completely compliant, if you don't give that money, that matatu will not work. So the owner, the investor must make sure that he gives that money so that he's allowed to operate. So if you say you are not going to bribe, then you will not be in business. And don't forget, when we talk of bribing, we are not talking of only the police officers who are on the road. We are talking even here in NTSA. You saw the other day, they are issuing licenses because somebody has bribed. You saw there, it was in one of the international media house. You see a vehicle going for inspection and they just bribe and they go out. Corruption is everywhere, even in our own courts, whereby if a police does not take that money and he takes you to court, you will bribe your way even before you see the magistrate. So corruption until we end this. And this is what Michuki did. He tried to end that, bring discipline, finish this corruption, and then we are good to go. Who are encouraging this corruption? It is the most senior high people there. So sometimes you wonder, does this money, the little money, the 50 shillings, the 100 shillings, does it go to the top highest management? Okay. Because there is no way a police officer will be collecting 50 shillings and the seniors know what they are doing and then they are just left to collect. So this is something which should be discussed properly, as he said. We can finish this. If we say today that our matatus will go cashless, there is no money which is involved in that matatu. And this is why you see, as I had said earlier, yes, private vehicles, police have no interest with those private vehicles, no matter what they do, because they know even if you stop that vehicle, that person does not have money. So if the same thing is done with the matatu and the boda, we are saying it's the same thing. Today, not a boda will pass the police, and a boda is a bit better. They will know how to swindle their way out, but not a matatu. If a matatu is stopped, because the matatu must pass through that road, okay, he will never try to get out of that police office.
Thank you.
He must bribe.
Okay, Ken, then what do you think can be done to address that? I mean, by extension, it also affects the sector that you do speak for, isn't it?
Yeah, it really affects, but I'll tell you, Abdi, all of us are actually agreeing in this panel that the culture of bad manners and normalizing corruption, it's become our culture. You will actually find yourself late. You want to catch up with the next plane at the airport. your next flight, and you have to go at a speed that is not the standard speed for that road. And all of us in this country, sometimes we happen to be like holier than thou, but these are things we do, including us speaking here. We found ourselves sometimes even overspeeding, and the police will arrest you. But most of the time you realize you don't want that police officer also to do his job. That's why you also become the very first person to pay that bribe. So if at all we want to see change, then we must also lead from the front. Police officers sometimes don't demand for bribe. We happen to be the ones, mkubwa hii kitu tusipeleke mbele, wacha tumalizie hapa. And hata wewe unajua, when this guy decide now to take the law fully, vizuri, we'll have to expand our prison, because all of us are going to go to jail. Because we happen to do these things every single day. Unapata hapa, there is a U-turn. It's saying, don't go U-turn here. And you are going supposed to go all the way to another 2 or 3 kilometers for you to get the right way to come back.
Okay.
Then you just decide, mkubwa, wacha ninyonge hapa. Na anakuambia nyonga. Bad manners. All of us, we are doing these things.
Okay.
But let me tell you one thing, Abdi. There is an elephant in the room that we must address. The emergence of the online taxi drivers. Most of them. Because one of the causes of accidents is distraction. Abdi, you cannot drive today and at the same time looking at your phone. That is a distraction. Before you realize the driver that was actually ahead of you, amepiga brakes, and you are looking at your phone so that it can give you direction, so that you can drop your client the next destination. These drivers were Uber. Where were they trained? Okay. So that they can actually multitask, because men, most of them are driving these vehicles. Men are not created to multitask. Okay. Maybe ladies can do it.
Okay, just hang on there.
It cannot happen.
Let me come to Patricia then. Ken talks about the training aspect of it. And here they are driving schools, then you are certified. Then that is the time you hold the steering wheel of a vehicle, subject, of course, observing the set guidelines and the regulations on the road. Does that happen well in these training academies for drivers? Is it appropriate?
In my sector, yes. It's very appropriate. For you to make money in a public sector, you must have a wealth of experience. One, you'll be vetted by the SACCO. Two, the owner of the matatu also vets you. You get me? No one will want to give an investment worth 8 million to someone who is incompetent. So training is there. My biggest problem, as much as Ken is ranting here, Mimi, the drama I've seen with Boda Boda guys is just on another level. And let us agree. They are unruly, they don't adhere to the law. Quite arrogant. Mm-hmm. And I think it's very important we held a national dialogue. I remember when I was young, all the black mambas, the motor bicycles, mm-hmm. they used to drive on one side, cycle on one side. What happened? I believe everyone here has had experience with Boda Boda guys, mm-hmm. okay? Not well equipped. But I'm also sad when I hear from him that the helmets are substandard. Then that raises another big question mark. Is our cabs.
The quality question?
Yeah, the quality question.
Okay.
Quality assurance. Why do we still have government institutions failing us? Because why would you allow you know, something that is substandard, that is supposed to bring protection in your country, inside your own country? Why?
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
And these are the things that we are people of goodwill.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And just hang on, Patricia, yes. Because when we talk about human lives which are involved here, and you said there's a vetting process that the matatus normally do, different circles and the owner of the vehicle. I just want to understand that vetting process. What does it include? Is it documentation aspect? Is it the experience on the roads?
There is documentation aspect for any driver, for any public driver, public service driver. Before you get on the roads, you have to get your certification from ATSA. Mm-hmm. You have to be cleared by the SACCO mm-hmm. itself, and then you have the owner of the vehicle. So they go through 3 steps. and make sure they're competent. But also, as an advocacy, our jurisdiction stopped at one place, and then we leave the rest to the enforcers.
Okay.
But what do enforcers do? Enable the wrongs on the roads. Again, corruption, like I said. Every matatu is a moving bank.
Okay. The money aspect that you have talked about.
Exactly.
Okay.
They're quite lucrative. We've been crying, and I believe by introducing cashless, we're going to bring down these carnages to 50%, because there will be no need of wanting money. It will be just enforcement.
Okay. Yeah. And now, because I want to talk about this, and as of September, the National Police Service said it will conduct a countrywide enforcement, David, I'm coming to you, initiative which was scheduled for that month, stating that actors such as the National Transport and Safety Authority would continue to educate public service vehicles, heavy commercial vehicles, and border operators, pillion passengers, and pedestrians on road safety. I mean, we have talked about the perspective of the stakeholders, but here are the passengers as well. Where is the broad-based discussion on the convergence of talking about road safety among all the people that I've mentioned? Because they are equally key. You can't be operating, and I'm sure you agree with me, without people. It's the people who give you the money for the lubrication of the process to continue making profit. But how do you engage them?
Let me say, as you have said, many things have been said, but nothing has been done. We see our government having a lot of, they talk a lot that they are going to do this, they are going to do this, but nothing is done. But when now I come to, first of all, I want to go what they discussed about the standard. And I want to be very clear. Standard is one very key aspect on road safety. He's talking about helmet. We are talking about the speed governors. We are talking about safety belts, whereby they are all, we have a standard for them. One, these standards are never followed. Why? And I will explain. We have a very good association, Boda Association. We are working very close with Matatu Owners Association because of these road safety matters. But even if they train their drivers, as the 80%, which I can attest here and say it is true what she's saying, they train their drivers, they are doing everything. But you are taking that driver on our roads, whereby we have so many people who are not trained. What do you expect? For instance, the accident which happened on Eldoret, Nairobi Road, what happened? A truck came all over the other side, and it came straight and hit the matatu. So it does not matter whether that driver was properly trained or was not trained. So it is all the drivers on our roads must be trained. And this is the work of the government. Okay. It's not, because Matatu Owners Association will not train all drivers. So it is the work of the government. And that is where we are saying we want licenses to be coming from National Youth Service, so that all drivers are properly trained. For sure, NTSA has failed us. When it comes to training of drivers, they have totally failed us. Okay. It is even better when we used to get our licenses from the police. Okay. You remember very well that you could go and you could find somebody who has failed to get a license. Today, have you ever heard of anybody failing to get a license? Okay, hold it there. Let's sample some of the feedback on the Twitter hashtag. That is Daybreak, at Citizen TV Kenya, at Ayub Abdikadir, and at Safin_Achieng. So let's start with this tweet from one of our viewers who is watching the broadcast this morning on Citizen Television. And Okelo Mwalimu says, road carnage will be keyword the moment Kenyans change the corrupt tendencies. A country where driving licenses are hawked like raw tomatoes, motorbikes used as tools of robbery, and everyone in a hurry to get home only to get rest, far away from realizing road safety. SAW says boda industry lacks seriousness. They believe they are undermined by motorists, hence they have to fight back, causing the accidents. Circles of groups must be registered and suspended if one member causes an accident or misbehaves. Absolutely.
And Engineer Lazaro says we have good traffic laws with corrupt enforcers who are only treating their deployments to the roads as a mild step of salary increment. Rogue border operators are law unto themselves. And Godi Barasawere says the Ministry of Roads, Transport and Infrastructure should adequately invest in sensitizing road users in a bid to reduce the number of accidents witnessed, and this calls for all motorists to diligently observe the traffic rules as well. Deo Davide says, how about the government vehicles who break all the traffic rules, especially our waheshimiwa who push you out of the road? Many questions raised there, especially for the border sector and the Matatu Owners Association, the registration process. But Ken, you want to respond to the specific questions addressed to you?
Yes, I agree with the number of viewers who are actually sending their sentiments. I mean, let me tell you, Abdi, yes, for sure, the border used to be this kind of people that always take the law to their own hands. They are the law unto themselves and all that kind of bad manners. But let me tell you, even Rome was never built in a day. Border, if everyone will actually have to track today and realize how border came into this country, it's because of the bigger timing bomb that we are sitting on, which is called unemployment. You take your child to school, they finish school, there's no job, and for you to get a job, you must have experience which you have not worked for. You are asked 2-3 years experience or the same job that you have never even done. Then you find yourself in doing something so that your life has to continue. And President Kibaki said this came 500,000 jobs, and border came from there. There is a complete paradigm shift from most of the people that used to cycle bicycles, who actually happen to have been promoted from bicycles to motorcycle. As much as my sister here, Mudeu, say at Ken is ranting, I'm not ranting, I'm only stating facts, things that happen on our roads. The border riders, they are either our sisters, they are our brothers, they are our fathers, they are there. The only thing we need to look at, we ask ourselves the merits and demerits of the same sector.
Okay.
We totally agree. Border became the law into themselves. As an association, let me tell you, there is a lot that we have done. And if you get the support, a small support from government, because a lot of pronouncements that we normally happen to hear from government, we've done a lot of meetings with government at Kenya School of Government, we've done a lot of meetings with the government at Jamhuri, we've done a lot of things. The kind of support they do for the TV to cover,
yes.
Then from there it ends there. It's a lot. We are tired of these pronouncements. We need government to be serious. Officers from government, when they come and make a commitment, let them make that commitment and follow it to the latter. Like for instance, Abdi, today, a border rider to operate in a circle, which they've continuously said everyone should be in a circle. In a circle, for instance, like the ones we have put together for border or to operate in that circle, I know one in this town called Eminent Circle, for instance. For you to operate in that circle, you must have an helmet, and those helmets are getting branded right now, either green color with the numbering from behind. The same number is also in the number plate of the motorcycle, which if you scan, you get the full details of the rider, wherever they are. And we also have officers who we have deployed on the ground. Like in this town, we have like 100. They also have walkie-talkies. We are working very closely with the police. The other day, you heard of incidents of crime in this town. Why is today, are we not speaking about the same? Because they have reduced. We've been doing something, but let me tell you, we are not police officers.
Okay.
We are only doing community policing with everyone. But I'm telling you, for our roads to be safe, the government has a very big responsibility. It is not just an issue of blame game. You see this border, you see the way they are doing on our roads and whatever. Border, after 2008, after they came, it operated for 10 years, Abdi, without regulation. The laws came in 2015 on rules and regulation on how border should operate on our roads. Those are 10 years, allowing riders on our roads without training, without any regulation. Okay. Then 10 years, we want to correct it, and we want to put it on the border leaders to correct that mess.
Okay.
Without the support of government,
thank you.
Na nywele ngumu ya watu wetu kwa hii barabara,
Okay.
we cannot do it. We need support ya government.
Thank you. 7, not 8 years from 2008 to 2015.
Yes.
Before the regulation came into place. Patricia, then there is also a question on the regulation aspect and your response to that. I mean, because registration is also key, and given some of the concerns that were raised, and you're talking about 80% of compliance in terms of your drivers, I mean, talk to us about the registration element here of who belongs to what SACCO and how well known are they in terms of the details in case of an accident and for purposes of responsibility.
It's very easy. SACCO is registered under NTSA. You must have a minimum of 30 units for you to be registered as a SACCO. There is no SACCO that operates without the knowledge of NTSA. We believe there are SACCOs which were registered illegally, but I think we're working hand in hand to make sure they are deregistered. So that is where the buck stops there when it comes to us, okay? And from the narrative here, I think as Matatu Owners Association, we've done our part. As border sector, they've done their part. As safety organization, they've done their part. So here there is the elephant in the room. What are the responsibilities of the government? Or at what point does the government come in? We cannot be giving solution in matters pertaining public transport, and yet you expect us to enforce. We need collaboration, and I think from the panel here, everyone is expressing goodwill to partner with the government. And I think it would be very pertinent next time we have this show. Any government official should be invited, because we keep on having too many questions that go unanswered. Even accessing these offices, it's tedious and almost impossible. Like right now, next week we'll be running a safety, a road safety campaign. One, it's underfunded. Two, we get most of our funding from private sectors. Why should we do a job that is supposed to be done by the government? Where is the government in this? As an advocacy, we've expressed goodwill to work with the government. But are we supported? No. So the menace continues. It becomes a vicious cycle.
All right.
You know, as border, I agree, of course, we have a lot of youth who are unemployed, educated and unemployed. So they seek the border sector as an alternative medium for employment. But how are they supported? We have all these funds, youth fund, I don't know which fund and which fund. How are the funds channeled? And yet we have people of goodwill who've set up platform for implementation, and yet they're neglected. And let me tell you, for us to be heard, we have to speak in our highest voice. There is absolutely no goodwill. Even like right now, what is so hard to enforce cash light?
Okay. She's making good points. Yes,
Yeah.
go ahead.
And you see, as she says, the responsibility here lies with the government. One, why do we have borders? Today we talk of borders, they are thugs. I have seen some people saying they are thugs, they are all. Let me tell you, the fact is this, that we have very good people who are ready to work. They go to do that job because they want to earn a living. But there are people who are thugs there. And who can remove these people is the government, because him and his association, he will not force people to join his association. Remember, and I want you to remember this because I was there, Michuki's time, we had only two associations, Kimutais and Bogwa. And every SACCO was to belong to one of those associations. And that is why things became better. Today, we have circles which are not responsible anywhere. NTSA, as a government body, they cannot control these circles. But these circles can be controlled, because today I want to tell you for sure, we are working with the Matatu Owners Association. And I want to tell you, if you go, the circles which are under Matatu Owners Association, you will see a lot of discipline.
Yes.
What about the others who don't want to join where there is discipline? So if a thug is here, he will not agree to join his association because they want to steal. And again, how were we able to remove thugs on the road? It was this thing I see now, they are removing it, the what you get from the CID, this certificate of good conduct. If we can agree that no Buddha will be on the road, forget about the license, without the certificate of good conduct. We'll be able to remove these thugs on the sector. But anybody can just ride. And when you see a Buddha, somebody driving a motorbike, you always think that he's a rider. You can even go and stop him. You want him to ride with him. Where will that thug take you?
Okay. So it's the clarion call to the government that you are putting forth, David. But Ken, again, there's a question about the cooperation, and you are seeking as stakeholders to have with the government in terms of fine-tuning these problematic areas that you have identified from your observations as stakeholders in the sector. But you said you had a meeting with the former Interior CS, Dr. Fred Matiang'i. Going forward, then, what are your proposals for the new administration to smoothen the hurdles on the way of stakeholders in the sector? Because you're talking about cooperation, but there seems to be no compliance to that effect and support from the state.
We are actually like, what do you call it, are the underdogs in this, though we are the majority, as we speak, like right now, Boda are now in millions, but we consider ourselves underdogs, as we consider also that our brothers, the Matatu owners, they've been in this game for a very long time. So you realize at times they get a very long shot from government. Anytime government want to do anything, the bigger invitations are always giving consideration to either the guys from Matatu owners, or from Matatu welfare, or others. But about being that we are also sharing the same public road, most of the time we are ever forgotten. Every time. Find that what is being discussed is so very important. Because we also share the same roads. But Boda most of the time are ever forgotten. So what we are saying, moving forward, because we also play a very vital role, because Boda per hour transport 3 people within 1 hour. So Boda rider transport around 14 people every single day, one single rider. So in total, we actually do over 15 to 20 million people in the entire republic every single day. Those are serious numbers. And those are numbers, if you just say today, we have a stakeholders meeting and Boda are not invited, then you cannot arrest the road carnage because they'll continue with those bad manners. We need to continue making sure that we embrace each other so that we continuously embrace, because the Boda sector is not a bad sector. I've seen people who have made progress in this industry using the Boda. We have good people, but we have small element of bad people in the sector who are continuously trying to drag us behind. For every step that we make, they want to make sure that they completely pull us behind. And because we have made a resolve and we want to, we've shown a goodwill. And I've seen with this new administration, because even the other day we've had a meeting with the Minister for Transport and even the Minister for Interior during the time we've had cases of crime and here and there. If that goodwill continues and we keep on engaging very closely, not just having a knee-jerk reaction, when there is something, that is the time you're invited, and when you need this continuous process to continue, now you're actually put behind, that's not something we want. But there's something Madam Mudeo said here about the issue of underfunding. Some of the things we are talking about here, Habdi, needs funding. As much as we are going to mobilize our people and pay taxes, because as much as you're making money in this country, you can't run away and with all the money, you have to pay to government. If that money gets to government, they have to give back. so that the kind of training we are talking about, if it is expensive, government comes in and subsidize, so that we reduce the cases that we keep on witnessing on our. We don't want to lose our people. We don't want to lose our brothers and sisters. We don't want to lose the entire sector.
Okay.
To the problem that we are talking about.
Okay, because no one wants human lives to be lost anyway. And the injury is also inundating our public institutions in terms of healthcare, since they need medical attention. And you have a number here of 7,236 who are within a period of 9 months was seriously injured, and 5,147 were slightly injured. That's a number of about 13,000, and we have lost so far 1,269 people on our roads, as per the statistics given by the National Transport and Safety Authority, the period between January and September. That's according to the numbers given by the National Transport and Safety Authority and the National Police Service. But Patricia, talking about this entire aspect about breaking the cycle,
that number is wrong.
Does it also involve the state of our infrastructure? Because you have talked about the regulations and the policies in place, the stakeholders, the government, and now the infrastructure. Is it appropriate?
No. The infrastructure was not designed to harbor the expansion that has come on board. For instance, when Ken says we have over how many borders right now?
Over 2.5
million riders.
Exactly, yeah. 2.5 million riders.
Across the country, that's?
Across the country.
Across the country. And yet we have the same roads. Okay? Then again, that poses a very big question as to what is the mandate of Chamber of Commerce. So I'm telling you, these things are intertwined. And sometimes I pause and wonder, why do we have all these ministries that fail to work, and yet they're heavily funded? These are questions that we need to ask. Where does this money go? And not unless we get these answers, then we have a long way to go as Kenyans. Any expansion requires a redesign of infrastructure. Mm-hmm. Has it been done? No. There is population growth. We're still having the same roads. Nairobi today harbors over 5 million people during the day, and 2 million during
the night.
At night. Mm-hmm. Yet we have the same roads. Circles have increased. Mm-hmm. So what will that happen? It will create a serious imbalance. Mm-hmm. When a serious imbalance is experienced, things become messy and disorganized because there is scramble for economic gains. Again, as much as we are also faulting police, how many have we recruited so that they can take care of the influx of new motor vehicles, of the motorcycles, of the lorries, and everything? And I keep on saying, we fail because of lack of awareness. We need serious public participation before any new commodity is introduced in the market. Disadvantage, advantages, and how we're gonna, circumvent the whole idea of any new product that has come in. And that's why we have government to legislate, overlook, and enforce in case things don't go the way they go. So we're in a country where, and I hope, I believe this will change in due course, okay? Because we have a very young government, quite vibrant, and chap.
Okay.
So I don't want to fault it right now.
Okay.
But I know whether we like it or not, we have to start being proactive.
Thank you.
Whether we like it or not,
okay,
we must start being proactive. Recession is there, corruption is there, everyone wants to eat. So please, eat where you plant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, David, your account of the same?
Is the figures you gave us.
Yeah.
We had a meeting with Matatu owners the other day, and the traffic commandant gave the figures of the dead at 4,600.
Okay.
We are only remaining with only 4 to make 5,000. And I still insist those are not the correct figures.
Okay.
So I was talking about the figures. And again, we have a lot of money. We have a levy for road safety. Yeah. Where does this money go? The question is, the time we start asking ourselves, where does this money go?
Yes.
When you fuel your vehicle, there's a levy you pay. There's some money you pay for road safety. Where does that money go? We have never known where the money goes because, for instance, the Matatu Owners Association, they are having a campaign from next week. Yeah. We want to see the government trying to support them with some money so that they can, and they are the best. This is not NTSA cannot do the best campaigning more than the owners of the vehicle. Yeah. These are the people who have spent money. Somebody who have gone and spent 8 million to buy that vehicle. He really wants his vehicle to be on the road. So if the government can support that initiative, seriously speaking, we are going to see a change.
Okay. Kennedy, given that we have circles which are expanding, you have talked about the increasing number of motorcyclists or riders across the country, 2.5, and the number is likely going to increase. Is the infrastructure commensurate to the increasing number of circles, both at the Matatus level and also the riders level, that's the motorcyclists?
Not really, because I mean, we've seen in other countries, like for instance in the Netherlands, where we have specific roads for different kind of operators. Like for instance, if it's a motorcyclist or those are using bicycles, they have the specific roads. In our country, we share the roads. So despite the fact that there is an increase in numbers, we've not seen an increase in the infrastructure. We still share the ones that we have. But we don't have a problem with that if we will work together. As compared to a scenario where someone from a particular point...
Just hang on, Patricia. Let me
that.
I'll come to you. Just hang on.
We should have a problem
just hang on.
that, Ken.
Okay,
because we're paying taxes.
Okay,
exactly.
Patricia, just hang on. You have your point. Can proceed.
Exactly. I also agree with her on that point, but I'm saying with the money, with the monies that we also pay, if at all that budget has not really been pumped directly into increasing the infrastructure, then at least it should be pumped towards increasing the levels of education and training for our people. And I agree completely with what Kiari has been pushing on the issue of National Youth Service. Let me tell you, I am a beneficiary of a training from National Youth Service when I was at National Youth Service, and I was completely trained. I'm a competent driver with a license from National Youth Service. The kind of a vigorous training you go through at National Youth Service, you cannot compare with any driving school in this country. You go through a vigorous process. Today, Abdi, anyone that is graduating from any driving or riding school today cannot ride on our road competently, despite the fact that wamemaliza and they've been given a driving license. But anyone that is graduating today from National Youth Service as a driver can drive you from here to Busia and you will not see any incompetence in that person, because they make sure that by the time you are going out, you completely competent.
Okay.
There is something that one of our viewers sent there, and that issue of our government vehicles. Abdi, most of our drivers driving government vehicles are VIPs. They are the most rogue drivers on our roads. They go on the wrong side. They don't care, and you fail to understand what kind of drivers are these.
They killed our governor.
There is one person that I think amekuwa very stubborn on the road na anakatanga kutoka kwa barabara. Anaitwa Boniface Mwangi. If a government vehicle, the only vehicle that we have been told to give way is a truck that is a fire, the presidential escort, any other person should follow the law. Why are they going on the wrong side? And then you find yourself on a ditch because unaondokea VIP at the minister.
Okay,
hatutaki hiyo maneno bwana.
Thank you. Yes, Patricia, you had a point. Proceed. You had earlier on you had a point.
That is my problem. Like, but at least you've corrected. We should not normalizing things which are not normal. It's not normal for us to share the roads, and yet we are paying taxes. We are paying revenues. 2.5 motorcycles. Equate that into monetary. How much is that? lots of billions. They should be pumped directly to the industry that has funded it. And this is, where is our active public participation? As a citizen, how active am I on issue pertaining me as a citizen of this country? And I'm paying lots of taxes. That is key, Ayub. And we'll sit here and talk, but we cannot continue the way things are.
Okay.
Okay? It's not normal.
Thank you.
When much is given,
yes, much is expected.
Much is expected.
Yes, David,
and as he's saying, we must separate the borders. With motor vehicles, we must separate pedestrians. This is all over. This is what made Sweden succeed. This is what made Sweden succeed. The government participated. It was able to separate, because there is no way we'll use the same road. At some time, there will be a commotion. And don't forget, when a border is hit, even if it is slight, the border person, he is the body. He's the one who goes direct to the tarmac. So we must separate this. And we are sad to see we have new roads coming up. New roads coming up. And still, our government is not realizing that safety must be improved on the new roads which are coming. We must make sure that we separate borders and the pedestrians and the motor vehicles. That one will save so many people.
Absolutely.
And again, as I say, we have a lot of money on road safety. The question is, where does that money go? Can that money be used to make sure that they separate, particularly on the new roads which are coming?
Okay. Now, final remarks here, and starting with you, Ken. The needed cooperation between stakeholders and the law enforcers. You have talked about the government's lack of goodwill in hearing your proposals as to change the style in terms of driving licenses, to the expansion of the infrastructure to accommodate the vehicles and have clear separated line between motorists and, I mean, in this case, cyclists and drivers. But given that we are approaching the festive season, and this is where the normal cliche sets in, increase in the number of cases, under-influenced drivers, now that many Kenyans are heading home for the Christmas and the New Year period. What is your message to the law enforcement, and what level of cooperation are you planning to do with them? And what is your message to equally the representatives that you do speak for?
I have a message first to the people that I represent. That's border riders. This is the time to on a high season. This is a time you're making numerous trips. This is a time you are working for 24 hours. And remember, when you are doing that, working 24 hours, always be on the road, you are not having time to rest. Remember also that your life is on the line. Because our bodies, the way we've been created, we have that nature of, you have to be, you get tired. You have to be fatigued. So, because we are in that kind of nature, we are not like a machine that does not tire, but at times it breaks down. I want to send this message to our people. Please, at this very point in time, make sure that you have everything. This is something we've been doing and we've been enforcing, but make sure that you're completely compliant. Number two, the issue of drunk driving, which has also caused a lot of accident on our roads. Please, don't drink and drive, because it will completely impair your judgment. But last but not least, the Deputy President, Bwana Rigiji, said the police are going to come up with the new uniform for the police, ila ina mifuko, so that they don't take bribes. They don't get bribes, so that they don't know where to put it. But unajua pia polisi wanaekanga gari somewhere. They park their private vehicles like 100, 200 meters away from where they are doing the operation, so that money still goes to those vehicles. So you see such them, you don't get any money.
Thank you.
So we want to just ask the authorities, please, as much as you never talked about corruption during your campaign, Mimi, I took it very positively, because I know you are running away from talking about it, you are going to act on it.
Thank you.
Act on corruption.
Yes,
period.
Yes, Patricia. Your final remarks on this.
Let us all be vigilant. Be active. Safety starts with you. It's a national crisis. And I think collaboration is key. I will still emphasize, let's go cashless. Once we go cashless, we'll be able to curb lots of ills, from making sure the police do their job.
Asante.
Okay? Making sure my driver is not in a rush to make extra coin. Let's have a system of administration that is workable. And we do that, we all go home as winners. Next week, we are running a road safety campaign.
Okay.
And I would like to thank all the sponsors, starting with the Association of Road Safety. They've been very supportive. And it is encouraging to see private bodies coming in to support an initiative that should be supported by the government.
Asante.
Yes.
We leave it at this. David, your final brief comments.
Yes, thank you. One, I want to tell all the viewers, all Kenyans, that we really need you after this festive season. We need you in January. You have a lot of work to do. And we can only lose you if you don't take care on traffic rules. I want to tell everybody who will be using our roads, this particular time, we normally lose 600 people. Please, save your life. Make sure that you follow the traffic rules.
Asante. David Kerry is the chairperson of Road Safety Association of Kenya. Thanks for your time and company. Ken Onyango is the Secretary General, the Border Safety Association of Kenya. Your time is all appreciated. Thank you so much. Patricia Mudeo is also the Chief Executive Officer of the Matatu Owners Association. Up next is the discussion on sexual and gender-based violence by my colleague Safin_Chieng on Twitter. And she'll be talking to Dr. Elizabeth Warui, who will be here to give her account of the measures that ought to be taken to stave off the consequences of SGBV. Many thanks for waking up with us here on Daybreak. The hashtag on Twitter has been Daybreak is Daybreak. And at Citizen TV Kenya, at Ayub Abdikadir, and at Safin_Chieng. Thanks for waking up with us. Your time is all appreciated. Good morning.